Sup, you've reached Clarissa. I'm out somewhere being da bomb and can't answer. My bad. Leave me your name, number, and a sweet message, and I'll hit you up later. Peace.
Hey, it's Amelia.
And Sherrick.
You told us to call and let you know what we're doing.
Weird, we get your voicemail almost every week at this point.
Oh well, I guess we'll leave you a message about what we're up to and our pop culture thoughts of the week, and hopefully we'll hear back from you soon.
It's almost as if we had a podcast that if you paid us like $160 and gave us like, some juice and water, we would probably build some IKEA furniture for you.
Sure.
If you would have asked 4 years ago, I probably would have knocked that price down to maybe $60, but inflation. So anyway,
fucking inflation.
Happy someday to everybody except for, I guess, Chibi Doki's computer, because it's going through it apparently, or at least
I don't know who that is.
Chibi Doki is a streamer that I learned about from the venerable and amazing Ray Narvaez Jr. He streams with Chibi Doki, and then his former coworker at Rooster Teeth, Matt, and then their mutual friend who goes simply by Nags, and collectively they are known as the Piss Boys. So apparently Chibi's having some issues with her computer, so no good morning to her stream or her computer, and I wish Chibi Doki a very good luck with coming back to streaming, because that blows.
Yeah. That does suck.
It's like I haven't I have yet to, and I'm saying that, and I knock on wood, have that situation where you are the focus of a large community, but I would imagine that being in that situation and not being able to stream is probably pretty frustrating and hard to go through.
For sure. Yeah, that would be annoying, I'm sure.
And Chibi strikes me as the kind of person who very much would be like, I just want to be with my internet friends. And I say that with I say that not sarcastically, I get it.
Yeah,
I understand it.
Yeah.
I just don't want somebody to be like, yo, Chibi, this no-name podcast was making fun of you. We weren't. Anyway, Amelia, how you been? How you doing? How you living? Other than hot, because that is an experience we both share.
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like I don't have a whole lot going on. Yeah, just kind of chilling. By the time when does this go up?
End of May, the 24th.
Okay,
yeah.
So tomorrow, if you're listening to this when it drops, tomorrow I will be taking a very, very short, one night only trip to New York City.
Oh wow! Look at you going.
So with friend of the pod,
why didn't you invite me? No, I'm kidding.
Because it's a trip for me and Amber to go see Cabaret on Broadway.
Yeah, Cabaret, famously a show that I hate. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. The joke is that I don't hate it, and I would have loved to go and see that show, but it doesn't matter because it is a trip for Amelia and Amber only. That is the explanation of that joke. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah, it's our thing. Seeing that show is our thing.
Yeah.
And we've seen it many, many times, and
probably see it many, many more.
Hopefully. So, but yeah, we're very excited, but it's going to be a very quick trip. Not affiliated with the gas stations. Yeah, very excited about it, but I'll tell you about it next time because it hasn't happened yet.
Speaking of, did you know that apparently a company bought Come and Go? the gas station Come and Go, and they were like, we're gonna change the name.
No!
And yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I'm gonna say the next sentence is gonna bury the lead on the bit, but I was like, a bunch of fucking people were like, you're gonna change the name of Come and Go to what? Like
cock blockers?
Like fucking Relieve and Weave? Like, what the fuck?
Although I will say, my favorite gas station name of all time. Come and Go is probably my second.
I was going to say, outside of Come and Go?
My first favorite is a place called Pump and Munch.
You know, some people are really into that. and you know, good for them. Good for them.
Anyway.
I don't have really anything to update y'all on other than I'm building IKEA furniture, and I was relishing in the short musical, and I'll call it a slaughtering of one Aubrey Drake Graham. I don't want to get too deep into this. Maybe if we really want to talk about it, I think I would want to get like a guest on the pod to talk about this. But the long story, as far as I'm concerned, short, is that it doesn't matter to me if Aubrey or Drake, if you prefer, picked the fight with Kendrick or however it shook out, but Kendrick won, in my opinion. Especially with Not Like Us basically being played in clubs all over the place, and it's just one giant diss to Drake. If you haven't heard it yet, Amelia, I recommend you wait.
Okay.
And you should probably listen to a song called Meet the Grams, which is also by Kendrick Lamar.
Okay.
Before you listen to Not Like Us, because there was kind of just like, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there was kind of like a succession of music put out by Kendrick, who notoriously does not put out music that often.
Mm-hmm.
Which it started with this track called Euphoria, which like is good. It's very good, but like it's kind of like cerebral. You kind of have to know. You kind of have to know what's kind of going on to really get Euphoria a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then Meet the Grams is basically just like it is legitimately a terrifying song. In my opinion, because it is like a brutal takedown of like of Drake and his parents, and it is also a letter to Drake's son Adonis, who famously he did not initially claim, and then it is a heavy allegation that there is another child that Drake is hiding out there.
Interesting.
And then Not Like Us is legitimately a club bop, like, and it's a diss track to Drake, but like people, I would not be surprised if you would be like traveling someplace and you would just hear it bumping out of somebody's car.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
I know that there's like something happening between them, but I don't know like anything else, and so that's more or less where my brain has been, even though like by the time we're recording this, it's been like a couple of weeks since that music dropped. So it's not like, oh, sure, just catching up. No, I was aware. I was aware in real time. I just, you know, it was like, it was still kind of fresh the last time we recorded. And so like Amelia and I have talked, but not necessarily about this kind of stuff. So she's getting it now. Speaking of things that Amelia is getting now, we're going to talk about Animorphs today! Woo!
So, the three things that have been on my mind the last couple of weeks are Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice, which is a game that I think is probably one of the best in the series, but it gets pretty deep into it. And then the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef, and then Animorphs. Not necessarily in that order, but likely in that order.
Gotcha.
And so we're covering two main books today. I wanted to make it a nice clean get to 40, but we'll see how things go. And this one is called The Arrival. I did kind of talk about it a little bit, I think, the last time we talked about Animorphs. And this is narrated by Axe. And I think that this is where we get kind of away from like the like goofiness, like the goofy, silly stuff that we were kind of doing. Like, it was still kind of serious, but they were just like, I don't know, fucking Atlantis exists for some reason, like in the last couple of books, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's still a little bit of that in here, but like it feels more like, I don't know, this feels more like the Animorphs that I became accustomed to, just thinking back to like young Sherrick reading this book for the first time.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this book, like most Animorph books, well, not most, I would say a decent chunk, starts kind of in medias res with the Animorphs going to try and rescue Eric King's dad. So for those who don't recall, there is a race in the Animorphs universe called the Chee, which is spelled Chee, and they are like anthropomorphic dog androids that can project human like shells, for lack of better words, or holograms, if you will. They're kind of like they can touch people and people can touch them, and they don't get the difference. So it's not like that's why I hesitate to say hologram.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially the Chee that is quote unquote Eric's dad is in need of rescue, and so the Animorphs and Axe are on the way to do that.
Got it. Okay.
So they find out where he's being held. They break in, all in battle morph. They're all hyped to go, and things just get bad immediately. Like, they break in, and have you ever seen that like meme where like the SWAT team busts down the door of a house and then like they literally are coming just from everywhere? Like, you probably haven't. It's like a video meme, but
that doesn't sound familiar, but at the same time, like I can imagine what you're talking about.
So it's like the door bursts off its hinges and like 4 or 5 SWAT team members just pour in from the door. You can see they like it smash cut to a window and they just like diving in through the window. The fucking ceiling explodes and like 3 of them start repelling. That's kind of what this is like, but it's like Hork-Bajir, just coming in from fucking everywhere. And they realized that this was a trap. Like this was meant to happen in this regard. And then it's basically the Animorphs just getting worn down as they try and fight their way out from these Hork-Bajir controllers. And who else would show up to make things worse but Visser 3?
Of course.
Your friend and mine with his fucking invisible ass mustache. That you know how like the villains like twirl their mustaches, like.
Got it. Okay, I was like, what are you talking about? Yes. Okay.
Because the last time, if I recall correctly, the last time that we kind of talked about Visser 3, the situation was that like he was like, "Well, I hate y'all, but we won't make it out of here if we don't collaborate. So I guess I don't hate y'all that much."
Got it. I sort of remember this. Yeah.
So now he's back with his traps and such. And they're like, we might not, like, this might be the end. And all of a sudden, reinforcements for the Animorphs arrive?
The fuck?
Right, because as veterans of the series should know, and if you are jumping in here, this is a bad place to jump in, but you know what, I'm not your dad, so I respect your choice. It is just the Animorphs and Axe. There are no like, there isn't like a B team or a second string, or they don't have anyone to call, because the Chee famously are pacifists. So like there was one time where they basically broke the programming, and Eric was so traumatized by the experience of violence that he was like, I'm never doing that again. So like the Animorphs are basically on their own, but 4 Andalites show up and they just like bail them the fuck out of it. Like they just kick everybody's ass, and Visser 3 pieces out. And this gives the Animorphs and Axe sufficient time to escape, but before Axe truly leaves, he talks to a young femme warrior of the group, who he immediately is enamored with.
Mm-hmm.
She says her name is Estrid, and that they will find him. So they basically piece the fuck out, and they recoup at Cassie's barn. Everyone else is like big sus of this situation, except for, of course, Axe. Axe is all about it. He's like, my people!
Mm-hmm.
Yay, they have come! We're gonna get this fucking thing done. The Yerks are toast.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else is like, well, the last time we talked to Andalites, it was on Lyra, and, you know, there was a whole traitorous situation. So, but Axe is still jazzed about it. So the next day is kind of a normal day. Tobias and Axe are like, we're going to go get some food at the mall. And they run into a commotion when they get to the food court. And it is a woman going fucking ham on some jelly beans. Like, hard as a motherfucker ham on some jelly beans. She is just like inhaling jelly beans and demanding more.
I mean, I understand the impulse, but what?
It does not take Tobias and Axe long to realize that this is obviously one of the Andalites in Morph, because they don't have what you and I would consider a sense of taste. So now that they are in Morph, they very much do. And, you know, the whole cigarette butts and cinnamon buns joke with Axe, where he just like doesn't give a shit that it's cigarette butts. The flavor is what drives him nuts, in a good way. So they kind of just like rush up to this lady and is like, haha, yeah, glad we found you. Those jelly beans are real good. Anyway, why don't you come along with us this way, you fucking crazy bitch. So they get her out of the mall and is like, yo, we need to schedule a when to meet so that we can fucking figure out shit. So we're gonna send you the
when to meet. I don't know why that kills me. I think because I know that's you saying that, and it's not in the book.
No, it is not, unfortunately.
So it's just like the trauma of constant when to meets and doodle polls in corporate America. Or not. Actually, I used it way more in nonprofit than in corporate. So
I was gonna say, what's your preference? Do you go when to me? What do you use?
I think it really depends.
Okay, I'm hearing you. Go on.
I haven't used either one in a really long time, so I can't say for sure. But I think if you have only like very limited spots to put something into, a doodle is really helpful. But if you are, because then you're just polling people on like like a few specific spots. But if you're trying to find like any time to meet between like in a week or in 2 weeks or something, like when to meet is a lot more helpful.
Okay. So yeah, when to meet is really the only one that I know about. I know I know some people that have used other ones, but like I've already forgotten what they are like immediately. So like it is what it is. Anyway, so yeah, sorry, go ahead, I cut you off.
No, you didn't. Okay. Just that like having to figure scheduling out that way
Always a joy.
Let's just say I love a workplace that requires everyone to use the same online calendar and the ability to just see when people are free. Anyway, continue.
So basically they are told where and when. Tobias and Axe relay this to Jake. Jake goes, cool. Tobias and I will go and handle this situation ourselves. So they go to the meeting place and they are introduced to the commander, whose name is Gonrod, an assassin on the team named Aloth, and an intelligence officer named Arbat, who reveals also some delicious little extra tidbit that he is the brother of Alaran, who is the host body that Visser 3 is utilizing. So he has some stake in the game, if you will, other than just like you know. And then of course there is the femme Estrid that Axe is enamored with. Gonrod is basically just like he's like just going on and on about his leadership capabilities and how good of a leader he is. And Jake is like, well, I'm in charge here on Earth and I don't take any orders from you. Like Jake is very like doesn't budge kind of a thing. Which of course upsets Gonrod. And he's like, well, Axe, you're an Andalite. Back me up. And Axe is like, this is my prince. His name is Jake. So you can get fucked and step on a rake.
You can get fucked. Oh man.
Which then, of course, he basically is like, well, if you're going to be a traitor, then you'll be a dead traitor. So he tells the others to fire. But before they can even do that, Jake is like, by the way, you might want to look down. And they do, and it is there are two snakes ready to strike. They are Cassie and Marco in Cobra morph. So they're basically like, you probably don't know what these are, but they will poison you and you will die slowly and painfully. So if you're going to shoot Axe, I hope you enjoy getting ready to die. Surprisingly, this causes everyone to start calming down a little bit. And they, the Andalite fighting force, as I will call them henceforth, basically are like, listen, we're it. There's not a larger group that are coming. It's just us. They're dealing with other problems in another sector. Our mission really is just to assassinate Visser 3 because him being in control of an Andalite body is a great shame for all of us, and we can no longer tolerate it. So they're basically just coming here to be like, yo, we're here to kill Visser 3, and then we're piecing the fuck out. Good luck with your planet. And so this kind of ends the meeting more or less. So the Animorphs return to the barn, basically with the bad news that like this is like this is it and that's it. Like they're just here for a short time and then they're going home, and then it's basically just them, because they've always kind of operated on this idea that like someday the Andalites would come and relieve them of the burden of this war. And this is like the moment in which it's confirmed basically that that's not happening. So which basically demoralizes all of them to the point of wanting to kind of quit. Marco cracks a joke that goes a little too far, and Rachel like gets in a fight with him about it. Tobias is just like, I'm out of the fight, and he just pieces out. And Rachel's like, well, I'm going to kill as many as I can before they can get to me and kill me, so I'm out. And she leaves. And then Cassie just says, like, if there's no hope of winning without Andalite reinforcements, then there's no excuse for killing innocent Hork-Bajir. And Marco's like, well, I'm just going to go and spend the rest of my life on a beach to fuck off, since this is basically over. Like they're basically kind of just giving up one by one.
They're like, well, the world's ending. I'm going to go have fun.
Yeah. Basically every one of them is kind of choosing their own destiny. And so basically it's just down to Jake and Axe. And Jake is like, well, you don't have to follow your vow anymore to follow me because it's over. And he's like, the Animorphs are through, so see ya, have a good one, kind of. And Jake walks out. And after they all leave, Axe is like, yo, Astrid, you can come out now. And he's like, Earth, he's like, I know this thing about rabbits here on this planet. They don't typically follow larger animals into like barns full of yelling humans, but it's okay. And Axe is like, I'm gonna join y'all. And so Axe goes to the Andalite ship with Estrid, and he immediately is suspect. He realizes that like the chain of command is not followed, and that Estrid doesn't seem to follow orders from Gonrod at all, and Arbat seems to be kind of the one calling the shots. And they ask like, yo, Axe, you seem to know the most about this situation. Where can we find Visser 3? And Axe is like, well, there are 3 places. You could find him at the earthen group called the Sharing, or he could be at the community center, or literally the Yerk Pool, which I believe one of the entrances, as a fun fact for those who either weren't paying attention or are new, one of them was going through a back room in a local McDonald's by saying, I want a Happy Meal with extra happy. So
I do, yeah, that sounds familiar. Have we talked about the Sharing before? Because that sounds like a cult.
We have. Yeah, we have. So the Sharing is basically, as a reminder, the Sharing is one of the Yerk's fronts to get like younger kids in to their whole situation. Jake's brother Tom is one of like the people that tends to be like, you should join the Sharing. Like, this is where we can all come to like be like adolescent and teenagers and like feel like we belong. And then like, of course, then they belong because they all get a Yerk in their brain. So
yeah, so it is kind of a cult. Got it.
Essentially, yes, it is a gateway into Yerkdom, basically. It's come up a couple of times before.
It's an alien cult. Got it.
Yeah,
got it.
It's more of like a cover up to get people in there,
yeah.
but yeah. Side note, can we talk about the fact that fucking RFK Jr. was profiled on the Animorphs subreddit because of his whole thing talking about how he had a worm in his brain?
Oh my god.
I was on the Animorphs subreddit like a couple of weeks ago and I just saw his name pop up and I was like, y'all motherfuckers are too quick.
I didn't know where this was going. Because I haven't been paying that much attention, but I have heard about the worm, so yeah, what the fuck? Oh boy. Okay, anyway, continue. Fucking RFK. Anyway.
Yeah. So basically, they all are going, okay, well, the first 2 choices are obvious, but Arbat wants to know about how to get to the Yerk Pool. And Gonrod is totally against Arbat and is like, no, going to a meeting of the Sharing will suffice just fine. I guess after this happens, this does happen after that conversation, Axe and Estrid go off to spend time together, and you could, I guess, maybe call it a date. They go to the gardens, which again is like the analog in this universe for bush gardens, I think.
Okay.
They morph humans and they just fucking pig out on Candy. And then they go, I have human mouth. And she goes, I also have human mouth. What do we do on date with human mouth? I believe humans put them together in an act they call kissing.
I love how that became like robotic at the end.
Yeah, it was kind of meant to, because they just like do this fucking awkward kissing scene, I guess, because they're like, this is what humans do on dates. And it's kind of like, did they do that because they actually have feelings for each other? Or did they do that because they just thought that that was a thing that humans do when they're on a date? Like, it's kind of, I don't know. It's just, it's funny. So they find a place to demorph and remorph into birds to fly back. And Axe is like, well, I would like to see my friends one more time. And they are passing a McDonald's where I guess Rachel in Grizzly Morph is just destroying the parking lot just for some reason or another.
Capitalism, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be that this is the McDonald's where you can get into the Yerk pool. Perhaps she's just destroying the parking lot. And they see Cassie in Owl Morph fly off to follow her back. And they kind of, well, they see her fly off, and they follow Cassie back to the barn. Cassie goes there to basically convince Jake and Marco to do something about Rachel, and Marco's like, I'm not involved. And Jake is like, well, Tom has been bullying me lately, so I'm just here to hide out, which is so interesting to see. Like the leader of the Animorphs, if you will, the boy that has had to make all these tough decisions. Basically, his main concern at this point right now is hiding from his bully of a brother, who also is a controller. You know. And obviously this bums Axe the fuck out. He's like, I've seen enough of this. I'm ready to go. And Estrid is like, you know, this would never happen in an Andalite situation. They would never behave so poorly if they're defeated this way. And they start flying back, and Estrid is like, there's a certain fierce bird that is looking near them. And she's like, that's interesting. Axe is like, this is Earth. There are so many fierce birds on this planet. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Axe elects to take first shift to stand guard on the ship, and as soon as he's able to do that, he tries to access the computer files to see what's going on, and he's immediately denied access. Aloth catches him doing this, but Axe like talks his way out of it, and he then reveals that both he and Gonrod were in prison before this mission. Aloth was in prison for illegal organ sales from dead soldiers. And Gonrod, the commander, was in prison for cowardice on the battlefield.
Okay.
So you find out at this point that Gonrod really is less of the commander and more that he's just a very skilled pilot. So that's why he's there. And Aloth is obviously there because he has unique skills as an assassin. So yeah, so they the next day they go to the sharing meeting, and they do not do any sort of like Animorph style finesse. They are basically just like, is Visser 3 here? That's him in human morph. We attack. Because they're not trying to they generally don't really give a fuck about humans the same way that the Animorphs would. So like, they're just like, here. They get in quickly, and Arbat insists that he's going to be the one that is going to take the shot on his quote unquote brother, which Axe is like, I thought Aloth was here as the assassin. So why is Arbat taking the shot? And he misses easily. And Gonrad and Axe also take shots, but they miss. Hork-Bajir again pour into the building, and Aloth is hit and he's injured. Axe is like gonna try and carry him out, knowing that he could survive it, but Arbat basically just like turns on Aloth and shoots him and kills him. He's like, nope. They run out, and Gonrad is already at the helm of the ship, and he fled. He basically pieces out. So he's like, cool, I you know that whole thing about me being a coward? Yep, still a coward. And he pieces out.
Yep, gotta go, bye.
Arbat basically just like tries to speed run morning, and basically is like, our only option is the Yerk pool. Gonrad I mistold you that. So he didn't like fly away, but he ran away from the battle, and he's already at the helm of the ship. So he's like waiting there. So this conversation happens, minus Aloth, because Aloth is dead. And they're like, well, our only option now is to attack the Yerk pool. And Gonrod is like, no. And Arbat's like, well, I'm taking over and I'm locking you away because you're a coward. And they're like, we're going to rest and we are going to do this another time. From here, Axe sneaks out and he comes back with Eric's dad, Mr. King, who also escaped when the Animorphs met up with the Andalite fighting force. And he basically convinces Eric's dad to break into the computer because he has superior tech abilities. They discover the truth of what is happening at this point. In the records, Aloth, Gonrod, and Arbat are already listed as having died on their ship in some other sector.
Oh.
And Estrid is not listed in the records at all.
Okay.
And they're like, they realize at this point, oh, this is a suicide mission for them.
Yikes.
So Axe sneaks off and he finds Estrid in a new part of the ship and she's conducting some kind of experiment. So Axe like runs in and grabs the vial that she's holding and is like, tell me what is going on or I will drop this vial. She panics immediately and she reveals that she is just a science student that Arbat recruited. And she has developed a virus that is deadly to Yerks, but it can mutate and become deadly to humans as well, which obviously causes a huge problem.
Yeah.
So Axe then realizes that, like, Gonrod and Aloth were, like, they thought they knew what was going on, but that Arbat was truly the one in charge. And that his whole plan the entire time was for Estrid to develop this virus. And this is why he was like, we'll do the Yerk pool. The Yerk pool is the plan. The Yerk pool is the plan. He's going to drop the virus into the Yerk pool. And then Arbat is like, yep, that is, he arrives to where they're having this conversation and is like, yeah, that's all true. Yeah, exactly. He's like, yeah, I was looking for a science student and I just needed someone to pull on this mission that would be able to develop such a thing. And that once it's over, Estrid's going to die because she can't live to confirm that that's what he was going to do. Only high-level intelligence will ever know that the mission even happened. And to ensure that, he pushes a button, and now Estrid and Axe are together in a laser cage. Oh my god, together in a laser cage here. So Arbat's like, cool, thanks for the virus. See ya. And he leaves, which causes Estrid to fall into despair because she's like, I can't believe that, like, he convinced me that humans were a sacrifice worth making because they're weak and easy to give up. And she reveals that she was not the only one that was there when the Animorphs broke up, that Arbat was also hiding and listening in.
Got it.
And Axe goes, yeah, I know. And then Marco walks in.
Oh, man. Okay.
And around the room, the rest of the Animorphs demorph from bugs. And they were just like, surprise, we were here the whole time. It was a fucking ruse. So Astrid is like, you lied to me. But he's like, the Animorphs are my people. So they basically, obviously, Axe is released from the laser cage. And they make their way to the community center and they go down into the Yerk pool and they morph and demorph to spread out to try and find Arbat and Human Morph. So Axe is like, wait a second. Arbat has like no experience being a human. So it should be really easy to find him. And they do find him because he is so not used to having his stalk eyes that he is constantly turning his head around, because normally he can keep a set of eyes, you know, in his periffs, and then he can just use his stalk eyes to look around him. But obviously, since he doesn't have that, he's constantly turning his head to see all around him. And they see him just as he's about to reach the pool. Arbat unfortunately does see them as well, and he fires a Dracon beam at them, which just causes chaos because he's like, he's shooting in an open room. The Animorphs all morph their battle morphs, and Estrid and Axe return to Andalite form. Once again, rule of threes, Hork-Bajir coming in from everywhere. And Estrid is panicking, and she's like, well, maybe the virus is better. And they continue to fight, and Axe is making his way towards Arbat. He realizes that he's not going to make it, but Estrid manages to fire a Dracon beam, which destroys Arbat's hand and the vial. The Animorphs are still losing, and Axe is like, well, okay, well, I may die here. I'm going to prepare to die down in this Yerk pool.
Mm-hmm.
But at the last minute, fucking Gonrod shows up in the ship, and it's revealed that Tobias is the only one that didn't show up on the ship. He basically, in that room rather, he basically was like, things are going south, and then he went and got Gonrad and was like, we need to help. So Gonrad was like, okay, I will not be a coward fully this time. And so they blow a hole through the roof of the McDonald's so that the way the ship can basically come in, and they all run for the ship, minus Arbat. And Arbat's like, take me with you. And Axe is like, I will not do that. Nope. Enjoy dying. And the Taxons eat him alive.
Wow. Okay.
Which, like, you would think that they would have saved him to be Yerk food, but I mean, like a controller, but alas, they do not. So the count at this point is Gonrod is alive and Estrid is alive, and that is it as far as the AFF is concerned. So the next day, Estrid and Gonrod are going to go. Estrid tries to convince Axe to come back, but he's like, no, I'm staying here. And so they peace out, and basically everyone else is like, hey, you guys want to get burgers? Just like have a normal day. And they're like, yeah, sure. But Cassie, being Cassie, like hangs back a little bit and holds Axe's hand to reassure him, because she's like, this has obviously been very hard for him.
Yeah.
So she holds his hand as they walk to go get burgers. And that's the end of the book.
Aw, so sweet.
Mm-hmm. So I think the book that parts of the book that really stood out to me here is like Jake's showdown with Gonrod at the very beginning. It kind of shows that like this book I think did a very good job of like dropping hints for things later on. For instance, Jake's conversation with Gonrod, it really shows that Jake has like embraced that like role of leader and is not willing to back down, which kind of does like a reverse foreshadowing because in the scene where the Animorphs quote unquote break up, like it feels very out of character for Jake to like not really have anything to say and to allow like the whole group kind of just go, well, we're giving up. This sucks. Like, and Jake is kind of just like, oh, okay, well, if y'all are leaving, I guess then the Animorphs are over. So Axe, you can stop following me now. It's over, and like the clearest giveaway of that is like Jake hiding quote unquote from Tom in Cassie's barn. Like everyone that like knows who Jake has become, like the readers at this point will go, wait, why would he be hiding from Tom like this? This is so fucking weird. Like he wouldn't be hiding from Tom. Like even if Tom was actually bullying him, he's not going to be like hiding down in a horse stall. Like, come on. But I mean, there is enough, I think, to not fully give up that ghost. Like, for instance, like Rachel's response to Marco's joke is pretty on par, because a stressed Rachel is like a pissed off Rachel. So like, but it is kind of like you do kind of get that red herring with Rachel as well, because she's just in a parking lot as a grizzly bear, just like punching shit. Like what? Like that's not really what she would do. Like she would probably go invent like to a punching bag or something. She's not going to like do something as obviously stupid as being like a wild animal in a public place causing damage. You know what I mean? Like, so And again, like even Tobias's exit, like he's been the one that's kind of like the most gung ho to like stick around and fight, and he just goes, "Yeah, I quit," and he leaves. Like he doesn't give an explanation. He just says, "I'm out," and it's like that doesn't sound like Tobias. So it really gives you that like almost like Marco's kind of thing is kind of like on par for him, but like anyway. It's just very interesting. Marco's got some great like one-liners in this book, so like if you decide to go and read it, definitely go and read it. There is a kind of a gross explanation in this book when Axe is morphing into a human and he says, quote unquote, the flesh flowed down to cover the bones. Which I was like, but I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of a weird explanation because, I mean, as like a pseudo centaur, you're really just losing the back half if you're morphing human. There's not necessarily any extra bones that need to be exposed or anything. I don't know. Unless he's talking about like flesh covering the like his literal back half to cover like his back of his hip bones and stuff like that. Maybe. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. That it's just a very interesting book. Visser 3 isn't in here that often, but he does. I did leave this out, but he does when they find him at the sharing as in human morph. He chooses to morph something small and hard to hit to kind of get lost in the chaos, which is interesting to me just because normally when Visser 3 is like under attack, for lack of better words, he tends to morph something to fight back. But I think it maybe would be just him kind of getting extra caught off guard, if you will. Possibly. I don't know. And one of the other things that I do want to point out before we move on to the next book is that like it kind of does help that the AFF shows up because they tend to fight as Andalites, and like up to this point the Yeerks have really just been fighting animals and not and one Andalite sometimes, you know, so it really kind of like reinforces it, you know, it ends up helping, I think, the Animorphs that like Andalites showed up to fight at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of throws a little bit of scent off the trail of like, are we just fighting humans that have the ability to morph? You know, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I've got for that. Do you have any questions or anything that you wanted to point out, or the stuff that really stood out to you as far as this book is concerned?
I don't think so. I feel like I did as we went. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do think I remember mentioning to you that your favorite species, the Helmacrons, were coming back. So we're here. We made it. We made it to the Helmacrons' return.
Oh no.
This next book is 39, The Hidden. It is Cassie morphing into, I believe it's a water buffalo. It is either a regular buffalo or it's a water buffalo. I don't really know the difference.
Okay.
One maybe is thirstier than the other. I don't know. I do not remember this book at all, so I had to do a little bit of like research because I know I read it, but I do not remember it. It's one of those things where it's like, no, I definitely own this book. I definitely read it because like this book was like this was like one of the last books that I got like consistently from the local grocery store that happened to have like a book section near the checkouts. Every book after this one, I had to go to my local Kmart to find. And I'm sure it was at like the Barnes and Noble or whatever, but like I didn't have a car at the time, so it was like I had to get on my bike, you know. So this was the last book that I found at the local grocery store. So I know I read it because it was like I was so starved. I was like I just devoured the book and I was like, next one, give it to me. When does it come out? Anyway.
Oof, been there.
Yeah. So it opens up with Eric back-to-back appearances by the Chi here, who has some truly just sparkling news for Cassie in the group. He says that the Yerks have discovered how to use the morphing tracker that the Helmacrons have and are now on their way towards the blue box, the Escafil device, that gives the Animorphs their ability to morph, which, for those of you who are just catching up or playing the home game, if the Yerks get the Escafil device, that means they basically have free reign to morph, which makes the Animorphs job like I'm not a mathematician, but I'm gonna say an infinity and 1% harder time for them. A trillion times harder for them to fight this war, because then literally anybody can be their enemy. They're essentially becoming shape changers. And not only that, but then they'll also know when the Animorphs are morphing because they give off that energy. So like bad times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
Worst times at Ridgemont High, the Escafil device is in Cassie's barn. So it's not like it's just like sitting out there somewhere randomly. Well, I guess that's better news, because then they at least know where it is. Because like if they didn't know where it is, that would be worse, because they don't know where to go to like stop the Yerks from getting it. But like it's still pretty bad, because like it's essentially a moving target that the Yerks kind of always know where it is because it's emitting that energy. So Cassie's like, well, time to get the fuck out. And she grabs the cube and like rushes to the gardens with her mom. She's like, Mom, want to go to the gardens? Like right now, like right this second, like literally get in the car and go. And she's like, sure. And the others morph Seagull to basically play catch up. But they're like, well, we have to be careful, because if we morph, that is going to trigger the, the Yerk's attention. Helicopters begin circling the area, and Cassie makes a break for it, and she hides in a van that is exiting the park. I can now tell you what kind of buffalo it is on the cover. It's a Cape buffalo, because that's what Cassie is sharing this van with, a Cape buffalo. And she basically is like, well, it is obviously agitated, so I'm going to acquire it so that we can keep calm. And as soon as she does that, chaos erupts, because the Yerks attack the van. And who's with them but Chapman, Vice Principal Chapman, and Visser 3. She morphs the buffalo and barges out of the van. I don't know how she still has the device at this point. Maybe she put it in her mouth. I don't know. And the real Cape buffalo basically just headbutts Chapman, just like headbutts the fuck out this dude.
Okay.
And she escapes into the woods, and the real buffalo basically follows her out. I have to pause because the next sentence that I say to you is quite possibly one of the wildest things that has ever been said to you in this Animorph series. She realizes a truly terrifying situation as she returns to human form. And that is that the blue box came into contact with this Cape buffalo. And if you recall, I told you that the headbutt from the Cape buffalo touched Chapman. So now this Cape buffalo is wildly morphing and demorphing between itself and Vice Principal Chapman.
Okay. Yep. That's a thing. Okay. Okay.
So Cassie goes, think fast, and she remorphs the buffalo and tries to basically do a like follow me situation to get it to like morph back into its buffalo self.
Okay.
And the other Animorphs catch up, and they realize two horrific truths about this situation. the first truth is the one that we already know, that this Cape Buffalo now has the ability to morph. The second truth is that this Cape Buffalo has now witnessed Cassie morphing from herself to Buffalo.
Mm.
So if this Cape Buffalo were to be captured, their secret's out.
Yikes. Okay.
So they look up and they realize that the helicopters are still circling around. So they decide that they're going to morph wolves so that they can hide. So they hide in a cave, and they decide that that's where they're going to do. They basically peace out. The buffalo is left behind because we got to get the fuck out of here because we could all die, and then it doesn't really matter if that this buffalo can morph at that point. If our secret's out, if we're already dead, doesn't matter. So they basically have a confab about what they're going to do about the buffalo and the tracker. They all basically are like, well, this buffalo, we can't let this buffalo live. And Cassie is like, well, I obviously don't want to kill it, especially now that it has human DNA in its system. And they are basically like, well, as far as the tracker is concerned, the challenge is going to be how do they get to it when it's up in this helicopter? Because obviously the tracker is on the helicopter, and that's like is what is guiding them. So it's like kind of a good news situation because it's like the tracker isn't like sitting somewhere and they're not being like relayed this information. The tracker is within striking distance in theory. They just don't know how to get to it. And it's unclear, and this is a thing that I think about, like if I were a supreme alien parasitic race that got access to a piece of equipment in which I could track my enemies directly because of the signature of energy that they were utilizing, I would, make a patent and make more than one personally. But it could be, or just do some sort of like reverse engineering. But maybe they're just like, well, we got the Helmacrons tracker, so we're going to fucking use it. So they're like, you know what? This is what we have to do. We are going to go with our normal plan, which is we go up real high, we drop something real heavy on the bad guys. So they are getting ready to go forward with that plan, but then they hear the buffalo in distress out there. And they see that the buffalo is surrounded by controllers, and Visser 3 himself is there. And he's like, basically like, you Andalite, tell me where the cube is. The buffalo is like, it's a real buffalo. It doesn't fucking know. Like it's not obvious. It's obviously not an Andalite. The buffalo manages to start acquiring Visser 3 and begins to morph Visser 3.
Oh, okay.
Which is weird because they just were talking about how they were going to rescue the buffalo, and now they just use this as a distraction to escape.
Okay.
And then
good distraction, I guess.
And yeah, but then this is where I guess K.A. Applegate was like, I know I did kind of say that to you. Don't worry, I have a plan. And she fucking has a fight scene between this buffalo that is now an Andalite and Andalite Visser 3.
Okay.
Who do you think wins this fight, Amelia?
The Andalite? I don't know.
Visser 3 or the buffalo?
Oh. Probably the buffalo, but
the buffalo wins the fucking fight. The buffalo who has exactly 3 seconds experience being an Andalite fucks Visser 3 up. He knocks him out and then runs after the Animorphs.
Oh man, okay.
So the group is like I was just so flabbergasted when I reread this. I'm like, so you're telling me that this buffalo who has exactly like 30 minutes of morphing experience learned from Cassie how to control the morph and then learned how to acquire an advanced life form, morph that life form, and then systematically whoop its ass.
I mean, she's just a really good teacher, okay?
Yeah, I guess. Jesus, fuck. So the majority of the Animorphs are like, cool, we're going to continue on to the ocean. And Cassie stays behind with the buffalo to distract like the Yeerks that are going to follow. She manages to basically like teach the buffalo to demorph. And the Yeerks show up again. She runs, the buffalo follows, and they jump off a small cliff to escape. They obviously fall and they crash to the bottom. And Cassie's like, well, I'll be okay, obviously, because I can just demorph and remorph. And although this is incredibly painful, she does so. And she basically coaches the buffalo to morph Chapman to heal its own injuries. So like this book is fucking bonkers. Like,
yeah, no kidding.
So the others wonder, as she catches up with the group, like how the buffalo manages to survive the fall. And Cassie is like, "Oh, it simply mimicked my morphing."
Yeah.
She leaves. She, just a little like Cassie-sized lie. Just to, now she's not at all gonna say like she's actively trying to save the buffalo or anything. Like, so, she insists that it's learning, but the others are like, well, it's only mimicking and that she's making too much out of it. Then she looks down at the cube and sees that an ant is on it, so she brushes it off. And she gets the buffalo to morph back into a buffalo, and they're like, well, we have to leave it behind when we hear the helicopters coming. And then here's the other one that is truly horrifying. Cassie begins to demorph, and then she sees the ant morph into Cassie.
Oh, shit! That's a problem. Yep, that's a problem.
And the Cassie ant creature morphs halfway between the two and begins attacking Cassie with his gigantic pincers. The buffalo is like, don't you fuck up my mother! And it attacks the Cassie ant, and then the ant begins to demorph. And then she stomps around, basically trying to kill this ant that morphed her, because I guess at this point she's like, nope, you morphed me, that's fucked up, I can't have that. She morphs the osprey, and as she gets ready to leave, the Yeerks show up and they just straight up kill the buffalo with a Draken beam. So
fuck
it's incredibly heartbreaking, but it does kind of, it's like one of those things where it's like you hate that it happened, but like there's no way you can really leave that as a loose end, like having two animals with morphing abilities just like out in the wild just existing, especially knowing what they theoretically know, because when a Yeerk possesses a creature, it learns everything that creature knew. So like Cassie flies out to the sea, and the Yeerks are shooting down at the rest of the Animorphs who are in dolphin morph. She gains altitude and positions herself directly above the helicopter. She demorphs, basically trying to reenact the plan of like she's going to drop herself as a whale on these things. But she fucks it up and she loses her wings way too quickly.
Oops.
So she is falling way too fast. She makes it back to human, and she's partially going through her whale morph when she realizes that she won't be big enough when she hits the helicopter, and she's going to be cut to pieces. What's worse, the helicopter pilot looks up and spots her veering out of her line of descent. So they truly get lucky in a very sad way.
Oh no.
So the helicopter pilot, well, I guess it's better because it's like if she's gonna fall, at least the helicopter pilot gets out of the way so she doesn't get cut to ribbons. I'm gonna sneeze. But his maneuver causes a rogue seagull that is not involved with the Animorphs to get sucked into the engine, and it blows up, which destroys the sensor also. Cassie is caught in the brunt of this explosion and is badly burned, but she wakes up in human morph, totally fine. And good. Her friends are surrounding her, and they're like, well, that's a dub. Let's go home.
Oh, and boy.
That is the end of the book.
Wow. Yeah, that one's messed up. That's so a lot of crazy shit.
I think this particular book, I think does a very good job of characterizing Cassie. But it's a hot mess in every other. Like it's so out there in any other way. And I don't know. It was just so bonkers, and it just like it does kind of go a little bit too hard in trying to justify Cassie's decisions, which like it makes perfect sense if this is your first introduction or even like your second introduction to who Cassie is as a person. Yeah. But this is book 39. And while she hasn't narrated every single one of them, she's narrated a significant amount. And there's very few books in which she is like wholly absent. So like, if any. So like, it's kind of like, no, like if you know who like, I don't know why you would start with 39 if you're jumping in an Animorph. So it's like, you don't really need to explain to us why Cassie is who she is. We should know at this point.
Right.
And so there's a weird situation kind of where you teeter on the line of Cassie knowing that this buffalo can't be allowed to stay alive. But also, she's willing to basically draw this out for as long as possible in what seems like some sort of hope that like a Deus Ex Machina is going to happen where like the Andalites are going to be like, it feels like she's like hoping that Jake's going to come up with some great plan, or the Andalites are going to show up, or the Helmacrons are actually going to show up and take the like, or the Elemist, or like, you know, like Krayak or somebody is going to show up to fix this issue. And it's like that is a thing that I really enjoy about the Animorphs, is that like the Deus Ex Machinas that do happen are kind of more random chance than someone just going, oh, okay, this has gone on far enough. You know, like it doesn't really feel like an abusal of like Krayak or the Elemist, or like, it's like if there's something that comes in that saves it, it's going to be like something that at least makes sense in the turn of the story. Like Cassie getting attacked by the ant version of herself, getting killed by the buffalo who feels like some sort of like protective, like feelings towards her, or like, you know, or the seagull saving their bacon and destroying the thing that they were worrying about, which like I was just so fascinated by it as an idea of being like, this is a huge problem to introduce to the Animorphs, and it feels a little strange to have it resolved in the same book.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it almost would be like a David style arc where it's like they're trying to deal with this. And I know that I make a lot of like jokes about like how these book ends and stuff, and I'm particularly proud of that. Like, we're going to call that a dub, going home. But it just felt like there could have been more there, I guess. For me.
Yeah. I get that.
So, there is a kind of funny moment where at the end, they're all dolphins except for Cassie, who's in human morph. And Jake privately thought speaks to her saying how glad he is that she's okay. And because she's in human morph, she has to respond out loud, and everyone goes, "Oh, interesting, cute. Oh my god, look at these two flirting." But again,
we ship it.
But again, I think the thing that is the funniest for me this entire book is, again, pointing out that this buffalo didn't gain sentience by morphing into a human or an Andalite. It gets their memories, but like it still has the same level of intelligence that it had as a buffalo, effectively. So like it can. So like I'm saying that to say that like instincts matter. You know, like when like they talk about like very early on when like Jake would morph a tiger, that he had to kind of like suppress the tiger's instincts to do this, that, and the other thing. So like the opposite is true in this instance, that like the buffalo morphing an Andalite knows, like the Andalite knows how to use its tail as a weapon. So like I'm not saying that like Visser 3 got knocked out by like a random dude on the street, but he got knocked out by a dude on the street that had like 3 days of boxing training. You know, like he's like a prize fighter, and a guy that was like, I took 3 classes in boxing 101. Pow!
Yeah.
So it's just, you know. So it's interesting. It's interesting at the end of the day. So there's one quote that I will say. Cassie does spend a good chunk of time talking to the buffalo, even though like it doesn't really talk back.
Right.
And so towards the end, Cassie says, "I have to go now," I said, knowing it couldn't understand me. "Thank you for saving my life." The buffalo's ears twitched, and then I knew what to say. "You are good," I said softly. Its ears came forward, and it made a soft, almost friendly sound. So like,
Aww.
and it's so, to me, it's so like in Cassie's character to have a book in which she bonds with an animal, even though that like a fucking wild ass circumstance happens. So there's, and something else that I do want to throw out there is that like, and this is kind of coming to me as I was telling you the recap. It feels weird to introduce a completely different mechanic for the blue box, because it shouldn't be that like, oh, touching the blue box automatically gives you the ability to morph, and touching something shouldn't necessarily give you the ability to acquire it. Like whenever there's conversations or descriptions about one of the Animorphs acquiring an animal, or even in some cases like a person, it is like a conscious thing that they are doing. They are placing their hand on it, and it takes a little bit. Like for Cassie to just brush her hand across an ant that happens to be on a blue box, and for those two things to kind of happen, feels a little bit like, well, we wanted some zany plot, so like here it is, and we're just gonna bend the rules, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And also, something else to point out is that this situation kind of already has happened with the Yeerks having a morph tracking thing, and Cassie basically morphing a whale to drop the Yeerks into the sea. In the book that one of the books that we did not cover, Megamorphs #1. So, which is like kind of a choose your own adventure kind of situation. So it feels a little bit weird that it like, you know, it feels a little bit like weird that it rehashed it, but so
yeah, it was like it's like they needed a filler book for some reason.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, that's what I got. Anything that you want to say or recap or talk about?
I don't think so. Just just going through the plot and learning about the craziness.
Alrighty, cool. Well, you can always let us know if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, emotional upsets, dreams, hopes, or nightmares at aswaydpod@gmail.com or hit us up over on the Instagram. And you can make up a theme song for me because this is Amelia. What the fuck is this? This is a part of the episode where I find something wild and crazy kids on the internet for Amelia, and then I show it to her with very little context. Enjoy.
Okay, let's see here. What? What? I have no idea what's happening right now.
What do you mean?
Why did he become Pitbull? And by that I mean has a piece of paper on his face that looks like Pitbull.
Because he said the magic numbers.
I know.
He's Mr. Yeah, he's Mr. Well, now you're going to become Pitbull. Good luck. Enjoy.
Oh, no. You only have to say it once. It's not even like a Bloody Mary situation where you have to say it 3 times in a mirror.
He said it once, and then he said, "Oh no, not again." So there you go.
Poor man. He's just trying to eat some munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, leave him alone. Pitbull, leave him alone. I don't know how to explain this. You just need to watch it on Instagram. Yep. I have no words. This is a true what the fuck. What the fuck did I just watch?
I did it.
You sure did.
Well, I think that is all we may have for you today. So, Amelia, can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at Shake Meets World on Instagram and at Fuck the Perfect Life on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts. And you can find Sherrick at Ablacksparrow.
Yeah, you can.
All of the places.
Yeah. Guess who almost fell victim to a scam today?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, boy. Speaking of which, someone sent me an email basically being like, "Hey, I hope that this email reaches you in these weird times. I'll cut right to the chase. My name is so and so, and I'm the founder of this product, and I like your style, and I want to know if we could possibly collaborate. I want to send you a code for a free product." And I was like, in the middle of I was like, well, let me look it up because they had an Instagram. So I was like, okay, well, I can just type in, and at the bottom, it's like, you can click on this link or you can just Google product name. And I was like, okay, I was like, Google product name, came up their Instagram. I looked at it and I was like, it's kind of an interesting product. Okay, interesting. And then I was like, I mean, maybe it could be a good something. I might get a free product out of the deal, so why not? And then I started writing the email, and I went, wait. And then I typed in product name scam, and a thread on Reddit came up, and I was like, delete the draft.
Yep.
So the way that the scam works is that instead of and obviously it's you always want to be careful with giving people your address or what have you. But the way the scam worked is that the person would send you a code to get the product for free.
Yeah.
But then you'd obviously have to put your address in and you'd have to pay for shipping. So you'd have to put some sort of card in to pay for shipping. And it's a subscription service. So then they just don't let you unsubscribe.
Yeah.
there's no way to really unsubscribe, or if you can unsubscribe, it would take forever to do so. So I was like, let me just stop.
Fuck. Yeah. Ugh, scams, man. Beware. Constant vigilance.
So, just be careful, unfortunately, and it sucks that, and I'm sure that if you've run any sort of Instagram account that, like, you've probably got an email saying, like, hey, I represent this brand and they love your style. Will you DM? That's like, no, if they love me so much, they can DM me their fucking self. Like,
right. Yeah, I know. And also, I'm like, I do not have enough followers for you to care about me wanting to promote your business. Like, that's just bullshit. My favorite, though, is that I've gotten one a few times about, like, something about like to promote like you and your dog, to promote dog products or something, and I'm like, I don't have a dog.
Exactly.
And it's not even that I post other people's dogs on my Instagram, so you're not even looking.
Yeah, for me, it's always telling, because they're like, we love your style and we think that you would represent our goth clothing line super well. And I'm like, I have nothing against people who dress that way. When have you ever seen me like?
Yeah,
if you looked at my
Instagram
page,
any of my Instagram, you'd know I'm not into that personally. Yeah, I know. Oh boy.
Sorry we probably hit the limit on ran long, or hit the limit on your voicemail. I always forget what my line is here.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to call you next week.
And then we'll tell you all about how we're personally banking on our animals becoming professional athletes at this point. Bye!
Bye!